This short guy might seem unimposing, but he's actually one of the most powerful men in the world, and just pledged, and originally had pledged $100 billion to America and 100,000 jobs as the CEO of SoftBank. They invest in different sectors. But Trump said to him live on stage, why don't you make it 200 billion? There's very few people in the world you can say that to who could even do it. But this guy's one of them. And what we're seeing here is the power wielded by masculine alpha men who can actually get things done. And this is much to the chagrin, of course, to all degenerate women who are triggered by displays of competence.
Proud to make the partnership of U.S. and Japan be stronger. And I'm very excited to make this.
Bro, only an alpha male, ultra competent man at the top of a meritocratic hierarchy could demand an extra $100 billion live, not pre-planned, in front of the world and get it from another man at the top of a competence hierarchy. This is what the left can't stand, because they have no way to do this. They've demonized masculinity, they've demonized competence, they've demonized meritocratic hierarchies as all oppressive constructs devised to make everything worse, because of course, according to them, their ideology is the only thing that grants virtue. So when they see this, they're infuriated because they're judged as frauds by everyone who can see it as, wait a second, Trump's able to do this and do that for the American economy? What have you done? Oh, you've only done everything in your power to hurt it, and you've not been able to do anything good. Oh, I see. It really is a war between absolute progress and total regression to insanity in the name of resentment.
As I said, small business optimism took a 41-point jump. 41 points, it went up.
That's how much people detest the left.
41 points, that's unheard of, and that's...
The thing is if you have a business, you've automatically purified yourself into a category where 99% of people already have rejected the left, because you have to believe that capitalism is a representation of objective reality on some level, that you're going to provide value. You have to take responsibility for yourself. You have to accept a lot of pre-axioms and axiomatic presuppositions to even find yourself as a business person that totally refute the left-wing position. 40-point jump is crazy.
The biggest they think in recorded history, but they know at least a minimum of 39 years, so that's great. But on behalf of the American...
Trump is just flexing on these haters, and he's not even in office yet. It's great.
Hundreds of dollars, from pennies to hundreds of dollars a foot. And we can't let this take place. Now, we're going to go. I spoke with the Attorney General of Texas. I spoke to the senators of Texas. I spoke to a lot of people, and hopefully they'll be able to stop. We're going to be, having a restraining order. But just think about how ridiculous it is. And this is just people that don't want this country to succeed. And this has nothing to do with Democrat or Republican. This has to do with...
Right, ultimate resentment for the left. I will say all leftists watching this are enraged that America is winning, enraged that America is happy and can see that there's progress happening, because that is a judgment on them. So they are actually rooting for America to fail.
Common sense. We won on common sense, and this is maybe one of the most egregious examples I've seen. So the people that are buying it or trying to buy it are trying to make a deal with us to sell it back at hundreds of times more than we paid. And this is all because the Democrats. So I'm asking today Joe Biden to please stop selling the wall. We're going to use that to create a strong barrier, and it worked. That's why our numbers were so good. It really worked, and it worked.
Let's just hate numbers. They can't stand those things. That's just oppressive constructs of men.
Worked well, and it's very expensive to do. And I'm asking Joe Biden to stop his people from giving it away. It's something that people can't even believe is happening.
Well, the left is trying to do damage to America. Full stop. That is who they are. I uploaded a video on this yesterday explaining in depth why the left-wing ideology mandates psychopathy and a rejection of all things that are congruent, coherent, and good. That's exactly who they are. After this video, go watch it, because what you see is a crystallized version of left-wing psychopathy through the feminine psyche.
We'll soon unleash American energy, and this will be done at levels not seen before, issuing quick approvals for pipelines, drilling, and other infrastructure. It'll be clean energy, and we'll bring in the price of electricity, and we're going to bring it down fast. We're also going to create clean coal. Clean coal is something that has really taken over. We have coal that will last for over 1,000 years. We have so much coal, and with a process, it becomes clean coal. It's very powerful energy, unlike wind. It's very, very powerful.
What's interesting is that, I spent a lot of time growing up around leftists, some of them elite liberals, meaning, they're in high places in society. And whenever you hear a term like clean coal, everyone just immediately scoffs and mocks the idea, but they don't actually look into what he's saying. They're not aware of any of the processes, any of the technologies that are at play in burning coal today. They just automatically assume that because a terminology word that they've heard just triggers something in their brain and makes them think you're saying something silly when in fact they are the ones who don't know what they're talking about. So on every level, leftism is really about cognitive fraudulence. That's what their ideology is built on.
Powerful. And we're going to be doing a lot of clean coal for the people of West Virginia and other coal. I use the word clean coal. And I'll keep my promise to pass historic tax cuts for American families, workers, and businesses that create jobs.
Chat's like a big cut, Trump. Bro, this is funny.
In America. As you know, we're giving tax cuts, and now we're bringing it down to 15, but only if they make their product, their car, or whatever they're doing in the United States.
This is very based. Yeah, lowering taxes to 21% if you're going overseas and 15 if you're making it in America. Both of those are lowered numbers. Fantastic for the economy. Leftism is really just about damaging America when you get into it.
U.S. And people are thrilled. My promise to pass historic tax cuts for families, workers, and businesses that create jobs in America. Any business that invests $1 billion or more in the United States will be eligible for fully expedited permits and approvals, including environmental approvals.
Incredibly
from the federal government. So,
because leftism is trying to get in the way of that.
Of the United States.
They hate business. They hate competence. They can't stand displays of meritorious action because it judges them brutally as incompetent.
States and stop illegal immigration, which is costing us, I believe, trillions of dollars a year. I think it's a cost that nobody's ever seen anything like it. I don't know how can you be satisfied releasing prisoners into the United States? Think of this. You're releasing.
Right. Well, the left actually just wants to deal damage to society because they have ultimate resentment for reality. I mean this literally in the most literal sense. That is actually their position, and that's how they operate.
Prisoners from jails all over the world, not just in South America. From the Congo, I would talk about it all the time. They're a very big sender of people. But from all over the world, they're sending prisoners out of their jails. Some of their jails are empty, and they will be empty soon if this ever continued. I spoke with the president of Mexico, and as you know, I spoke with Justin Trudeau of Canada, and we told them it's not fair, not right. You can't let these people come into our country. And they understand. They're very much on notice, and they're going to have to stop this from happening. What a shame. It should have never happened. It would have never happened. If I were president, that war would have never happened.
And everyone knows that. Again, enraging to the left. But what should be enraging to the left is that hundreds of thousands of young men died due to their incompetence. But it's so perverse to say, but it's true, so I have to say it. Their resentment for masculinity is such that they don't care about that. And also they resent the coherence and mental frameworks that would result in peace. So they prefer war.
Nor would Israel have happened with the attack on Israel. So we're inheriting big challenges at home and all over the world. Again, we had no wars.
Challenges that only a competent man can solve. So we're in luck.
We had no problems. We had no inflation. We had it less than 1%. Perfect number. And then we had inflation, the likes of which I say, I don't believe the country's ever seen inflation like that. They say 38 years. I don't know. I think it's probably ever, but we're going to take care of all of it. We're going to get the prices down by energy. The energy is going to come in. We have more energy than anybody else. We're going to use it. We don't have to buy energy from Venezuela when we have 50 times more than they do. It's just insane what we're doing. So if these hostages aren't back home by that date, all hell's going to break out, and very strong. But we generally just discuss.
It's crazy that American hostages are still being held and SEAL Team 6 hasn't been deployed or Dev Group. It's absolutely beyond comprehension. But again, weak leadership, total weak leadership. Failed.
I asked him, where are things? Mike Waltz they're doing a great job, by the way. Everybody is very happy. I think he's doing a fantastic job. But he was very much involved in the call. But it was a recap call more than anything else.
President, how do you plan to stop the ban on TikTok next month?
Who?
How do you plan to stop the ban on TikTok next month?
We'll take a look at TikTok. You know, I have a warm spot in my heart for TikTok because I want youth.
Dude, this is funny. A lot of liberals have come up to me and talked to me directly about TikTok, which is funny. I think that's where they get a lot of their left-wing programming, so they're concerned that TikTok's going to be banned. And I've told them I don't think Trump's going to ban it. They all seem to think that he will. I don't know why.
By 34 points. And there are those that say that TikTok has something to do with that. Now, Joe Rogan did, and some of the other people that were
watching Donald Trump reference Joe Rogan in front of the fake news media after he's won the election is so delicious.
recommended by my son Barron. He knew names. I said, "Who is that? Tell me, who's that?" "Dad, you got to be kidding. I can't believe you don't know." And I did those interviews, and it was actually sort of cute. Do you want to know the truth? But we did them, and that had an impact. But TikTok had an impact, and
Bro, did you just call the Nelka boys cute?
so we're taking a look at it. But, you know, we won youth. Republicans are always 30 points down in youth. I don't know why, but we ended up finishing.
Because the left indoctrinates young kids, and young kids are looking for a way to have hero status, a way to have virtue, and the left comes along with this proposition saying, hey, sacrifice your individual. And I know this firsthand. I experienced this at the same school that turned one of Elon Musk's sons, you know what. The proposition that they put forward is sacrifice your individual identity on the altar of identitarianism and we'll grant you good person status and virtue. You don't have to argue. You don't have to learn things. You don't have to make sense. All you have to do is profess the statements that we tell you to profess, and you'll be a good person automatically. And so it's an uphill battle for a young person who's fighting against people who call themselves good people but have no evidence of being good people. That's what happened when I was in 10th grade and realized, wait a second, every single class I'm being told that racism is the problem, regardless of the variables. The end analysis was racism. So when I listened to Ben Shapiro on YouTube, Jordan Peterson on YouTube, some of the first introductions to alternative ways of interpreting reality, I realized, okay, so there's no model that has been developed to contend with these ideas because the left just calls themselves good people with no evidence. And that, of course, opened the door. And then, you know, I saw the Kathy Newman interview and I'm like, oh my gosh, wait, I'm on the wrong side. So, yeah.
There was one poll that showed us down about 30. We were 35 or 36 points up with young people. So I have a little bit of a warm spot.
Up with young men. That's correct. Yeah, young men are coming out of high school conservative now because they've seen what's been going on recently in the last couple of years. I'm one of those
Spot
guys.
in my heart, I'll be honest. Yes,
President
And here's where the questions start. I'm very interested to know how this went.
Entertaining the idea of preemptive strikes against Iran's nuclear facilities.
What an insane question. Dude, what? Who's asking this? That must be a CNN or that must be an MSNBC type question. Sir, you're about to be president. Will you now tell the world if you're considering preemptive strikes against Iran? And then if you were to answer this, you know what they do? They make fun of him for giving away national secrets or something. Like, come on, bro.
Against Iran's nuclear
Well, I can't
facilities.
tell you that.
Would you
I mean, it's a wonderful question, but am I going to do preemptive
Exactly what?
strikes? Why would I say that? Can you imagine if I said yes or no?
Bro, if he gave an answer, the same media would be like, can you believe what Donald Trump just said on stage? Like, bruh.
You'd say, that was strange that he answered that way. Am I going to do preemptive strikes on Iran? Is that a serious question? How could I answer a question like that? Say it.
Would you be in support of Israeli strikes on Iran's nuclear
How could I
facilities?
tell you a thing?
Dude, okay, it must be CNN. Leave it in the comments, guys. Who do you think is asking that? They're definitely either CNN or MSNBC. That's like the View level intellect questions for sure. By the way, if you're new here, go to abrahambier.locals.com, linked in the description. Scroll down and press become a member. For $5, you can support the fight against communism. This channel is demonetized. I appreciate all of you.
Like that now. It's just so you don't talk about that before something may or may not happen. You know, just I don't want to insult you. I just think it's just not something that I would ever.
It's not a serious question, and don't worry, Mr. President, I will insult them. That is, yeah.
Answer having to do with there or any other place in the world.
President
Time magazine interview. Can I ask, just clearly, do you believe between vaccines and autism? Do you believe there's a link?
What kind of question is this, dude? What is going on?
Between vaccines and autism? Do you believe there's a link?
Well, I don't look.
How? Oh my gosh, dude! Why are you not asking about the economy? Why aren't you asking about how we just negotiated an extra $100 billion and 100,000 jobs in front of the press and the world on stage live? Why aren't you asking about that instead? Do vaccines cause autism? Like, bro, we already have. I don't know if I can say that on YouTube. Okay, I'll just say this because it's kind of funny. If the vaccines did cause autism, we should use more of them because then we'd have more people like Elon Musk, people that are good at chess, people who are on the Forbes list. That's a reference to a post I made on X like a month ago when this guy was trying to make fun of people with autism, and I'm like, so you realize that like all successful people since the beginning of the civilized world have pretty much been, or most of them have had autism. Anyway, but they obviously vaccines do not. So
Right
whatever.
now, you have some very brilliant people looking at it. I had dinner the other night with the head of Pfizer, the head of Eli Lilly, and we're looking to find out, if you look at autism, so 30 years ago I've heard numbers of like 1 in 200,000,
Yeah. 30 years ago, we didn't know what autism was, and 30 years from now, I think there'll be a much more robust psychological literature on the study and architecture of the autism spectrum. Considering that both Elon Musk is autistic and as well as the world champion in chess, and most high-ranking chess players do have autism, as well as obviously nonverbal people who can't feed themselves. So there's a huge spectrum that needs to be studied psychologically. I find that personally very interesting.
1 in 100,000.
Robert Kennedy, he's on the Hill today. He's meeting with senators. What do you say to people who are worried that his views on vaccines will translate into policies that will make their kids less safe?
No, I think he's going to be.
Big Pharma has made children less safe, and these are matrix questions because look at what they did in the last 4 years. Next.
Much less radical than you would think. I think he's got a very open mind, or I wouldn't have put him there. He's going to be very much less radical. But there are problems. I mean, we don't do as well as a lot of other nations, and those nations use nothing. And we're going to find out what those problems are.
What Trump, unfortunately, doesn't recognize here is that the left doesn't care about reality. They don't care about morality, and they just want to damage America. So they don't care about making progress. This is not a default of Trump, but he does want to be liked by as many people as possible. And so he's trying to get approval from people who only want America to fail. And this is something I'm sure he's aware of, and people around him will tell him, but yeah, I mean, you're not going to convince an MSNBC reporter that, America should do better. They've already decided they want us to fail.
Do you think schools should mandate vaccines? Do you think schools should mandate vaccines?
I don't like mandates. I'm not a big mandate person. So, I was against mandates. Mostly Democrat governors did the mandates, and they did a very poor thing. It was, in retrospect, they made a big mistake having to do with the education of children. They lost like a year or 2 years of their lives. The mandate was a bad thing. I was against the mandate.
So is that something you'd want to?
Yes, please.
Do you expect Ron DeSantis to appoint Laura Trump to
It's very disgusting to see degenerate female psyches ask such perverse questions when they've been reprimanded as if they still have the moral high ground. This is what I mean by they're run by psychopaths.
I asked a couple of generals, so we have an army of 250,000 in Syria, and you had an army of 400,000. They have many more people than that. Turkey is a major force, by the way, and Erdogan is somebody I got along with great, but he has a major military force, and his has not been worn out with war. It hasn't been worn out with all of the other things. I mean, he's built a very strong, powerful army. And so we have 5,000 soldiers in between a 5 million person army. But no, I don't think that I want to have our soldiers killed. But I don't think that will happen now anyway because the one side's been decimated.
Mr. President, I want to ask you a question on the
Briefing of the drones.
Can you comment on the drones that are flying around New Jersey, the ports?
This is very
It seems like the American people have a big dislike.
The government knows what is happening. Look, our military knows where they took off from. If it's a garage, they can go right into that garage. They know where it came from and where it went. And for some reason, they don't want to comment. And I think they'd be better off saying what it is. Our military knows, and
The left doesn't want to tell the American people anything because they're hoping for chaos. They're hoping for panic. And that's not what the American people are going to give to them because we've seen this charade over and over again. It's not interesting.
our president knows. And for some reason, they want to keep people in suspense. I can't imagine it's the enemy because if it was the enemy, they'd blast it out. Even if they were late, they'd blast it. Something strange is going on. For some reason, they don't want to tell the people, and they should, because the people are really, they happen to be over Bedminster.
Will you
Want to
shoot
know
them
the
down?
truth.
Wow.
They're
Intelligent
very,
briefing.
they're very close to Bedminster. I think maybe I won't spend the weekend in Bedminster.
Have you been-
I've decided to
have you
cancel my
received-
trip.
Have Have you received an intelligence briefing on the drones?
I don't want to comment on that.
Have you been
Do you have
getting
any, do you have any
regular
reason to think they're a
intelligence
threat?
briefings?
Two quick questions. First, on vaccines, do you want RFK Jr. to
Chad already knows aliens are real and probably visited Earth. So it's not a stretch. It's not a surprise. People aren't going to panic when they find out, when the government admits that aliens are real. I feel like there's been so much media. There's been so many podcasts on this topic, so many experts, so many whistleblowers, so many people saying, yeah, I worked on these projects, that any people that care about learning information already know that aliens exist. So the government can just come out and admit it. We all know that you know.
I'll be seeing some of them. I think it's rude not to. I mean, it's hard to say I'm not going to see you. And I've spoken to way over 100 where they called to congratulate on the not only the election but the
Dude, that's so cool.
size of the election, the extent of the victory.
The total repudiation of the left.
And they were great. I mean, I spoke to over 100 countries. You wouldn't believe how many countries there are. And I'm trying the best I can to get back to everybody, but there are a lot of countries.
United Healthcare shooting, the
I think
shooting of the
it's
CEO.
terrible.
Can you give us your thoughts about that? And what do you make of the reaction
I think
around
it's
the
terrible.
suspected shooter? Does that tell you anything about how people
I think
about
it's a
healthcare?
terrible thing. I think it's really terrible that some people seem to admire him, like him. And I
Only leftists. Video on that yesterday, you guys. Go check it out. Yeah, leftists do openly support murderers and upload videos of themselves openly supporting murder.
I was happy to see that it wasn't specific to this gentleman that was killed. It's just an overall sickness as opposed to a specific sickness. That was a terrible thing. It was cold-blooded, just a cold-blooded, horrible killing. And how people can like this guy is, that's a sickness, actually. That's really very bad, especially the way it was done.
No
It was
kidding.
so bad.
No kidding.
Right in the back. And very bad, thing like that. You can't believe that some people, and maybe it's fake news. I don't know. It's hard to believe that that can even be thought of. But it seems that there's a certain appetite for him. I don't get it. Yeah, please.
Could you just comment on?
I want to expand on the defamation lawsuits. Could you see moving that to other people with individual platforms, social media influencers, people that...
Or newspapers, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I do. I think you have to do it
That's fantastic. Harry, Sissy, we're coming for you.
because they're very dishonest. We need a great media. We need a fair media. We need, it's very important. And we need borders. We need walls, but we need borders, and we need fair elections. You look at California, millions and millions of ballots were sent out. They're still counting the vote in California with the machines. They're counting the vote. If you had paper ballots, the votes would have been counted 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Now, you need fair elections, you need borders, and you need a fair press. And the press is, no, I see others. I have a few others that I'm doing. I'm going to, as an example, I'm doing this not because I want to. I'm doing this because I feel I have an obligation to. I'm going to be bringing one against the people in Iowa, their newspaper, which had a very, very good pollster who got me right all the time. And then just before the election, she said I was going to lose by 3 or 4 points, and it became the biggest story all over the world because I was going to win Iowa by 20 points. The farmers loved me, and I loved the farmers. And it was interesting the way she did it. She brought it down 2 weeks before. She said I was going to only win by 4. That was a big story.
Have you had any preliminary discussions with countries like Venezuela, from where the Tren de Aragua gang is now popping up?
They'll
across the
take him
country?
back.
They're going to take him back.
They're all taking him back, yep.
You see the difference between an alpha guy who can get things done and leftists. It's crazy. Oh, yeah, we do want criminals inside our country for no reason versus we're going to get rid of them.
And if they don't, they'll be met very harshly economically. Okay, they'll all take them back. You know, Venezuela and other countries were not behaving very well with us during my administration, and within 24 hours they were behaving very well. They'll all take them back.
And separately,
There it is. Yep, exactly.
can I ask a follow-up
Jeff?
on that?
Nice to see you, Jeff. This is like the old days, right?
Nice to see you too.
You look much better now than you did 4 years ago. What are you doing? What's he doing? All right, go ahead.
The economic might of America is something to behold. It's a very powerful weapon to wield.
Thank you, sir. The first day you just mentioned that you're in office, I imagine you've got some executive orders that you're
Yeah, a
going
lot
to
of
go through. Can you tell us what your
We'll have a lot. Well,
what are your priorities?
I'll bet you could tell you could say as well as I could. We will have many executive orders and other things that we'll be signing on the first day.
Can you also, just going back to my initial question about the Middle East, you said that your conversation with Prime Minister Netanyahu was kind of a review. Did you repeat
We
that
just had
threat?
a very good conversation. And, you know, the real conversations will start on the 20th. But we had a really good conversation, and I think we're going to be in a good place in the Middle East. I think the Middle East will be in a good place. I think actually more difficult is going to be the Russia-Ukraine situation. I see that as more difficult.
When you say there will be
I don't think they should have allowed missiles to be shot 200 miles into Russia. I think that was a bad thing. And that brought the Koreans in, you know, North Korea, another man I get along with very well. I'm the only one that does. But that did a lot of bad things. I don't think that should have been allowed. Not when there's a possibility, and certainly not just weeks before I take over. Why would they do that without asking me what I thought?
Any reaction
Just
to
one last one on
Cross?
this. When you say that there will be hell to pay if the hostages are not released before January 20th, what does that mean?
Well, they're going to have to determine what that means. But
Right, exactly. It's called SEAL Team 6. It's called the tip of the spear. It's called American Commandos and Greatness. Use your imagination.
it means it won't be pleasant. In the first term, everybody was fighting me. In this term, everybody wants to be my friend. I don't know. My personality
Because he has nothing more to prove. They know they can't stop him. There's no term after this. He just won.
changed or something. But I had...
The left was beaten. Everyone across the planet saw that the left could be beaten for their warfare on reality.
As you know, I had Sundar from Google, but I also had Sergey. Nobody reported that. Sergey is the owner, the primary owner, along with his friend, as you know. And Sergey was here also. I can't believe you didn't pick that one up. Nobody picked that up. But I will tell you, no, it's a big difference. The big difference is that the first time everybody was fighting me on all fronts. And we had a great administration. We got the biggest tax cuts in history, rebuilt the military.
Interesting. People were fighting him the first time. I didn't know that the CEOs were against him. I guess that is understandable, or not that it was justified, but that I understand that in hindsight that makes sense.
It was given away to Afghanistan, stupidly given away, horribly given away. I think that's one of the reasons that Putin went in to Ukraine when he saw the stupidity of Milley and these guys. They're stupid people, very stupid people. If they didn't do such a bad, we were pulling out of Afghanistan, but I would have pulled out with dignity and strength. They wouldn't be having parades, I guarantee you, showing our equipment that they left behind, because we weren't going to leave any equipment behind, not 10 cents. We were going to take every screw and every bolt. Yeah, the biggest difference is that people want to get along with me this time. Well, they've gone through 4 years, and, it wasn't easy for me, but it wasn't easy for them either. And that's a great thing, though. Getting along is a great thing. So Tim Cook was here. I think he's done an incredible job at Apple, and he talked about the future of Apple. It's going to be a bright future. But we have many others also, and not in that business. And we do have Jeff Bezos, Amazon, coming in sometime during the week. I look forward to that. We have a lot of great executives coming in. The top executives, the top bankers, they're all calling. And honestly, in the first time, I don't know what it was. It's like a complete opposite. In the first one, and the press has covered that fairly, actually, for change. The first one, they were very hostile. And maybe it was my fault, but I don't really think so. They were just very right from the beginning. And this one is much less hostile. It's really the opposite of hostile.
Can I get your reaction?
Were you
on
afraid to
Google
give up a
Cross
song?
You mentioned Bezos a second ago, and I've always thought Bezos would be a key person to go in there and really streamline the logistics of the post office. But they lose billions.
Well, there is talk about the Postal Service being taken private. You do know that. Not the worst idea I've ever heard. It really isn't. It's a lot different today with between Amazon and UPS and FedEx and all the things that you didn't have. But there is talk about that. It's an idea that a lot of people have liked for a long time. We're looking at it. I want to thank you all, and we're going to make America great again. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Howard.
Someone in the chat said hate is overrated, and I couldn't agree more. I think that's the vibe now, at least for most people that aren't deranged and insane. So I appreciate all of you watching. I'm going to start editing this now, go to abrahambier.locals.com, link in description, subscribe for $5, and support what we're doing here because we're demonetized. I appreciate all of you, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video.